Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, with special guest appearances from Andrew Hoges Hoganson, three avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Minnesota Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? The Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. Men for the Win is part of the Pulltab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pulltab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' three-game series against the Cincinnati Reds. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins play host to the Cincinnati Reds, drop all three games, and games, Dan, that all three of them very likely could have been won had the front office put any money into the infield defense or into the bullpen. We could be talking about a sweep in the other direction with just a couple of investments here, Dan.
You know, we've been talking about that for a few months, David. You would think that they would listen to us at some point, but they didn't. They didn't listen here, and so all these problems that we thought the Twins would have, they have masked for the last couple of weeks. Maybe they just kind of came through fine. These are the true Twins, do you think?
Well, we're going to talk about that.
I know.
We'll
teaser.
Always burying the lead, Dan. Always burying the lead. But so the Twins have dropped to third in the AL Central. They're still at 500. They're 11-11 here. The Guardians are at 13-10. The Tigers are at 11-10. And then the White Sox and Royals are quite down the list here. But, Dan, this series was, in fact, a series of exposure. The lack of the bullpen and the defensive issues that we haven't really had impact the wins or losses yet really came to the forefront. But one bright spot to this Twins team is their ABS challenge success is like, if you have one of those plots, you know, the charts, and you have all the different teams plotted on it, the Twins are so far and above high as far as number of challenges as well as successful challenges. It's led to a true large number of runs scored for the Twins because of their success in this arena, which I'm hoping that continues, Dan, because it's seeming like quite a boon for this organization.
If you think about just all the opportunities that a successful one can create for a team that wasn't there. Because I think back to previous years where it's like, oh man, what would have happened if that was a walk instead of then what ultimately a strikeout or a ground out or something like that. It definitely is. I'm impressed with their foresight and their willingness to really lean into that and do it smartly. I think that's a credit to their analytics team.
All right, Dan, we've pushed it off as much as we can. Let's go ahead and jump into the series recap.
Series recap.
Game one, David, the Reds win this 2-1. Not a ton of chances for the Twins, but enough to be able to look back at a 2-1 game to say, yeah, you had some chances. Bottom of the third, they load the bases with 2 outs. Keishel, though, strikes out on a 7-pitch at bat. The challenge here, I thought it was a good idea to challenge this because it was so close. And I'm always kind of watching, you know, when you're watching live, they show where the pitch was. And I swear it was not over the plate. Like it had missed a little bit, but you know, then they zero in like tennis, and then it just clips the corner. But that was a missed opportunity. Top of the fourth, De La Cruz doubles. Then Stewart reaches on a throwing error from Kreidler. There's one of those that you talked about. Bell did have a chance at it, but then Stewart steals second. Eugenio Suarez hits an RBI scoring double for both of the runs, all of the runs they would have, and then that held up. Bottom of the fifth, Twins' best chance to do some damage was when Williamson walked the bases full. Williamson, by the way, is a Minnesotan. And then Martin hits a sac fly to score the 1. But then Keishel with I would call it a rare ground into double play for a guy given his speed, wouldn't you say? And that ends the inning.
Yeah, he had a rough game, Dan. I mean, Keishel has had a rough few games here. I mean, he still has beautiful hair, don't get me wrong.
I have magic hair that glows when I sing.
And he's not a guy who people are like, oh, he's a bust, right? Like, I mean, everybody in that clubhouse thinks he's going to start hitting. It's just a matter of when, Dan, and I hope it's sooner rather than later at this rate.
Well, the bottom of the eighth, we see Shelton make some moves with James Outman pinch running. Okay, he is, well, at this point, he was hitless with 18 at-bats, right? You really forgot he was on the team? That's what the note says.
No joke.
You really forgot he didn't play for them anymore?
The video panned over to the Twins dugout to show him getting ready to come in the game, and he's like on the back step up in the dugout with his Outman jersey on, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I forgot that he was on this team. I told
John,
my
I
wife
forgot
that.
you were
She's
there.
like, yeah, I'm not joking. But so the Outman thing is hilarious, obviously, because he has yet to get a hit in these bats, which it's a little bit of a bummer. We had this whole thing planned where we were going to be like, Outman, what a terrible name for a baseball player, and we were going to do this Outman watch thing, and it was going to be so cool. But as we'll learn in Game 3, Dan, that won't hold up.
No, and then as is a theme here, Joe Ryan, a great outing here. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, and then the bullpen does well. Topa, Funderburk, and Sands allow 1 hit. So many things went well for the Twins here, but just no clutch hits. Then we had Game 2 and Game 3.
Terrible games to watch, Dan.
Oof.
So you know how we're like, if you're going to rewatch one of these games, don't watch any of these games, folks. Go do anything else besides watching these Twins games on replay. But Twins lose this one 5-4. Very similar story to Game 1. The Twins had chances, but again, they just never rose to these opportunities, Dan. Really frustrating. Bottom of the first, things start out well. Martin and Bell both walk. Jeffers then hits a 2-run triple, which watching Jeffers chug along those bases was a fun thing to watch. But so puts the Twins up 2-0. The Reds get one back on a Stevenson sac fly in the top of the second. And then the bottom of the third comes, Dan, and it is the longest inning in MLB history where there aren't very many runs scored because Martin reaches first, but he's called out. That gets flipped and challenged, turned to safe. Then Bell grounds out to first, Lowe tags the bag, and then throws to second. Martin is called safe. The Reds challenge, but no, he was safe, though the call is confirmed. Then Keishel drives in Martin, RBI single. That's a good showing from Luke Keishel here. But then he's still second. He's originally called up, but then the Twins challenged, and it turns out he's safe. So the inning finally ends on a Larnach lineout, but there were like 3 challenges in this inning, Dan, and it just seemed to go on forever. And an inning that lasts that long when your team's batting, you want to have more runs to show for it.
I know, and that was what was so disappointing is there was, again, so many chances here. It's hard to not like overblow one series where the Twins didn't get outplayed. I know we're going to talk more about this later here, but it's just so many of those moments that you can point to and say, gosh, if a couple of things go the way, if they go the Twins' way, they win the series.
Oh, no question. But so Suarez, who I know you're really familiar with, obviously out there
Eugenio.
Okay.
There's no way they're going to have their Kreidler out there.
You cut it. Oh, man, there you go.
Okay, first of all, I'd watched him a little bit in the postseason last season, obviously, right? But here's my thing. His batting stance, before he gets in his stance, he is the most relaxed-looking person I've ever seen. I used to work at a restaurant, okay? And one of the things, a lot of the guys in the restaurant who worked in the back side of the restaurant, they smoked. That's just what they did, right? And the cigarette, Dan, that they would have before work started was very different than the cigarette they would have, like, in between rushes in the kitchen, right? And so the cigarette to start the day, that's how Suarez approaches his stance at the plate, was just like, he's just relaxed. There's nothing stressing that guy out in the entire world.
He's kind of from like a different era of baseball, I think, an era when players did sorts of things like have smoke breaks and things like that. He is very laid back. I will grant you that. And he was a twin killer in this series in many ways.
Oh, super frustrating. But so top of the fourth, he hits a double, then he's brought home by Stevenson. Twins are still up 3-2 at this point, but that'll change. Don't worry. Twins add another run in the bottom of the fifth with a Brooks Lee single. The bases, though, were left loaded on a Tristan Gray strikeout. So Twins are up 4-2. Top of the seventh, though, Topa allows a Hines single. He gets 2 quick outs. Funderburk enters, hits Myers, and then De La Cruz hits an RBI single. Shelton's then ejected. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, based upon a check swing call on De La Cruz, which is pretty funny. Bottom of the seventh, then, the Twins start the inning with the Luke Keishel double, but they can't bring him home, which again is just the moral of this series, or the theme of the series, the motif of the series, if
I like
you will.
the motif better. As an English teacher, I believe that. That's the best.
But so the Reds get 1 in the 8th, and then 1 in the 9th, and then the Twins can't do anything to get their offense moving. Larnach gets the start over Wallner in this instance, which is a little bit interesting, Dan, with a lefty on the mound. But we'll see. Mr. Matt Wallner, who you had picked for Puckett's picks.
Okay. I will talk about why that was. But let's move on here to Game 3, which the Reds won 7-4. This is the disappointing game of the series for me.
Yeah, they should have won this one, no question. Bottom of the first, the Twins get on the board early. Again, the theme of the series. Buxton singles, Larnach walks. Buck then advances on a flyout and scores on a Victorini sac fly. So the Twins are up 1-0. Bottom of the third, Twins get 2 more in.
Sorry, did you say Victorini sac fly? It's Victor Cantorini. You've like made his name Victorini.
Victorini. It sounds like a Italian fruit drink, Dan. Yes, sorry. Caratini is what I was trying.
Yep,
Victorini, though, is definitely what we're. That's definitely what we're going to call him moving forward. Victorini. So, but sorry, bottom of the third, the Twins get 2 more.
That's pretty good right there.
on a walk and 3 straight singles. So the Twins are up 3-0 at this point. Top of the 4th, though, De La Cruz doubles, and then he advances to third when James Outman can't pick up the ball, and then he scores in the next at bat. It was like a ground out or something. So the Twins are up 3-1. Bottom of the 4th, James Outman breaks his hitless streak with a single. Congratulations.
Okay, but I gotta say, in the notes, you call him Jams Outmake.
That's a better name. Dan, for all the effort that I'm putting into the show right now, you could be
notes, but Jams
you could be
Outmake?
a little bit more gracious. I knew what it was. You knew what it was.
Well,
Why do we have to call it? It's so often. This is often the difference between men and women. Also, men in conversation, one will say something incorrectly, but everybody knows what they meant, and it just sits there quietly in the room, Dan. And if a woman's in the room, immediately she'll correct it, even though everybody knows what was being said at that time.
But
Dan.
Victorini and Jams Outmake, like that sounds like a bad portmanteau. Well, they're both anyway. They're lovely and they're very apt, I suppose, for both gentlemen. But I just had to say, maybe he should change his name to Jams Outmake. It's more descriptive of the man.
I think Outmake is worse than Outman.
Well, yeah. That's what he is, though. He makes out.
There's a double steal attempt, which we'll get to in a minute. But so then it's super quiet here, Dan. Nothing happens in this game until the top of the 9th. Andrew Morris had gotten through the 8th, but then he falls apart in the 9th. 2 singles, a walk, and then a 3-run double by Friedel gives the Red the lead. And then Shelton brings in Acton, a batter too late, in my humble opinion. Acton had already been warming up, and so I think he would have been ready to come in with the bases loaded prior to that big 3-run double. Bottom of the 9th, Twins do tie it up after Outman doubles, and then Martin comes in and hits an RBI double, so that puts it into extras. But my goodness, the Twins' luck in this series, Dan. To start the top of the 10th, De La Cruz starts on second. Suarez hits a ball to Gray at third. He misses the ball. It trickles into left field. Brooks Lee goes out to get it, and then he sees Austin Martin coming in, so Brooks Lee decides to let it be, and Martin gets there, and he can't pick up the ball. He tries to barehand it, so then De La Cruz scores because Martin fails to barehand the ball. Then it gets ugly. Nothing really to note here, Dan, to end this game other than the Reds win this one 7-4.
Well, if you're looking for something that's not ugly, David, there are some people out there who don't look their best, right? They're dehydrated, they're walking around, they haven't had their electrolytes. Not a good thing. Dehydration can leave you feeling irritable, give you brain fog, feeling low energy, and especially here in the spring and the summer. Well, we've discovered a new hydration hero, and their name is Drip Drop. Drip Drop was invented more than a decade ago during life-saving humanitarian aid missions across the globe. This Dr. Dolan created Drip Drop for fast hydration where IVs just weren't possible. Drip Drop is a next-level breakthrough in hydration. It's backed by 6 decades of science, designed for both speed and taste to deliver the fastest possible hydration. Drip Drop is a secret weapon. More than 90% of all professional sports teams are using the Drip Drop anyway. The Vikings, the Wild, the Wolves, the Twins. It's also used by the military, including Army Rangers and Navy SEALs, and there's a reason that they choose Drip Drop, because it's a superior product. Simply put, Drip Drop works faster and tastes better, so head to Amazon or dripdrop.com and order some Drip Drop. Mix it with water and experience for yourself the fastest way to hydrate.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett! Puckett's Picks winner.
Okay, all right, so here's... Whenever I'm not on the show and I realize that I need to make a Puckett's pick, especially... David, full disclosure, I was about to walk into an escape room that I knew I was going to get out of pretty soon, right? I mean, we're pretty good in escape rooms, the group I was with.
Oh, I believe you.
But I didn't know for sure.
Wait, hang on. One minute.
Oh, so now you think you're better than me.
You know, you've had more. Anyway, well, I just need to be careful. So I'm looking at the roster in my head, and I'm like, who do I pick now, right? Lewis is my go-to, right, when in doubt. I went with Matt Wallner because I thought, you know what? One of these times they have to face a pitching staff that employs right-handed starters. And again, who do I see but lefties pitching for the Reds? So that's what I credit my -1 score to.
Very good. The listeners took Buxton, who had a rough series. He only had 1. Hoges took Martin, who had 4. Then I took Jeffers, who had 7, also giving me the bonus here, Dan. My second win in the row. I have 3 on the season. Then, Dan, you're still in the lead at 3.5, but you have been dry for the last 4 series. The listeners have 1.5, and Hoges is bringing up the rear at 1, but still really early here, Dan. Anything can happen in Puckett's.
And I like that we're close in points scored. Hoges was 30, you with 28, me with 27, and the listeners with 20.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
Well, okay, so I was looking for guys who actually had hits. And Josh Bell was kind of the only one who was consistent. 5 hits in the series. Now, many of them were, well, they were inconsequential hits, but hits nonetheless. And in a series where I was just looking for guys to do, at least he did his part to get on base. It was just unfortunate that when he got his hits, nobody was already on base.
Yeah, Bell has been great all season. I mean, there were a couple of times, though, here in Game 3, especially where a big hit would have been huge. He could have won it here, Dan, in the bottom of the ninth here, had he been able to get it done, but could not do it. Well, I'm going to go with the starters as my beast, and then I'm going to do my bench right away, which is the bullpen. So the starters, Dan, 18 in the third innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 21 strikeouts. And I also want to give a special shout out to the Cincinnati Reds, who absolutely refused to use their challenges, who had to give up, 4 of those strikeouts, Dan, were only there because the Reds refused to challenge. Bailey Ober was the highest beneficiary of the Reds refusing to challenge. He had 3 strikeouts that were clearly balls that he got away with, Dan. But your guy, Francona,
Tito's not worried about that
challenge,
stuff. Tito is a fundamentalist when it comes to baseball. I don't know about his other beliefs, but I think that he probably just thinks, let's just let it be. There's no need for this interference here with his ABS system.
Well, and then the bullpen, 10 innings pitched, 6 earned runs. The thing is, I don't even know how mad you can be at it. It's not like they underperformed what we thought they were capable of. Like, it's like when you ask your kid to do something that you know they're not going to be able to complete, right? But you're like, we're going to let them try. And you can't be disappointed if you ask them to rake the leaves and they miss half the yard because they're young, Dan, and they're vision doesn't work that way.
Ogres are like onions.
Yeah, it's a front office problem, right? It's an ownership problem, because I think the front office can look at this and see, we needed more relief pitchers, and the owners didn't care. So, and it's not even a Derek problem. I don't think it's his problem as much. My bench is gonna be Tristan Gray, 1 for 9 in the series, a costly error as we talked about in the top of the ninth of Game 3. The Twins' lack of depth behind their starters on the right side of the infield, the left side of the infield, whichever side we're looking at here at third and short, is really showing here, and it showed in this series with Kreidler. And then also with Gray.
Yeah, we'll have to see when Lewis comes up if his defense gets any better at third base. And you do have to wonder, like, Royce was trying to figure things out and he was starting to get somewhere. It's a little bit of a bummer he got hurt when he did, because truly, even without his bat, his defense might have been better than what they had at third base between the air from Kreidler and then the air from Gray here as well. But let's go ahead and jump into Derek's debrief.
You ever seen Buck with his pants down? No.
Derek's debrief.
When I listened back and Hoges realized what the sounder was for and why we'd chosen it, I about fell off of my seat. I couldn't believe that he had put that together.
It's impressive, Dan. It was.
He missed the whole point of why we picked it to do for this sounder.
No, just the fact that he thought it was random. Like, the thing is, we not only did he not make the connection, he thought it was like super disconnected from anything from this segment, and it's like, no, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Homes.
Anyway, Shelton got tossed in Game 2. When I was following on live, it wasn't immediately clear what had happened, but there's a great clip out there of like the 2 minutes of broadcast here when this happened. Lots of live mic on this here. It's fascinating to me. I guess it's a window into how much conversation happens that we don't notice in a game between managers and umpires at first base, at home plate. It was a little bit like home plate umpire Nick Lenz kind of like standing up for his first base umpire buddy. Like kind of like, you're standing up for your girlfriend who's getting picked on by somebody else. Like that's kind of what it felt like.
Ogres are like onions. End of story.
Exactly. But I was just, I don't know. That's what was fascinating about it. It was also very Derek Shelton was like, I didn't say that. I'm like, I think you probably did say that. You may not have been saying it to the umpire, but like, if you're going to say something under your breath, you can't shout it under your breath. I think that's the issue here. So Derek maybe needs to kind of dial down his volume a little bit because I have students like this who, whatever they say it at 10 out of 10 volume. It doesn't matter, it's like they're oblivious, but I think they're not oblivious. Like, I think that they know that they're being hurt. It's very confusing. But my favorite part was Glenn Perkins worked in the line, "They thought wrong." And he said it in a way that made me think that he watched Godless on Netflix, which is one of my favorite miniseries. And I felt a little bit of a connection to Glenn Perkins in that moment. And I'm really hoping, so Glenn Perkins, if you're a listener to our podcast, if you would please let me know if I'm wrong or if I'm right. If I thought wrong, one might say, in this moment.
I'll have to add that show to my watch list.
It's so good, David. You're going to love it. Oh, man. Lots of redemption. Lots of it affirms courage. It's great stuff.
If you like to hear more about literary thieves, you can check out our other podcast on our Patreon for only $1 a month. Picture of Record gets you access to that podcast as well as supports the show, obviously. Yeah, I do think that what he was arguing was reasonable because
sure, I didn't even mention what he was when he was talking about.
So he was upset because De La Cruz had a check swing that was called a ball and a no swing when he, oh my goodness, Dan, that was definitely a swing. It was a terrible, terrible call by the first base umpire. I'm going to go, though, game 3, top 4. Derek, you got 2 outs. You got Brooks Lee on third. You got James Outman at first, or what did I call him? James Outmake on first. You've got Larnach batting, okay? 0-0 count. Nothing's happened yet, okay? Outman tries to steal second. Clearly, this is a double steal attempt. The whole goal is obviously to get the throw to second base, and then Brooks Lee, who, no matter how he rearranged his body, Dan, knowing that his body weight is still the same. My back! He's not any faster. He is no faster getting from third base to home. And Ellie De La Cruz sees this very, very slow man from third base leave far too late for this play to be effective. And he jumps in front of the ball and throws home and throws out Brooks Lee by a good 15 feet. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about the double steal here because Larnach has been decent at the moment here. I think you have to give him a chance. And it was just, I don't know that you have the right person on third base to try this on, because Brooks should have realized where Ellie De La Cruz was playing. There's no way you're going to have a chance at home base because Ellie's right there to cut off the throw and throw it back home. And Ellie De La Cruz throws it like 100 miles an hour.
Like he runs.
Fastest throw. Yeah. Everything that man does is fast, but like he throws as fast as some pitchers. Exactly. So I just don't know. I just don't know that I love the double steal in this particular circumstance, and I like the execution of it even worse than I like the call, Dan.
Yeah, and I would like Brooks Lee to maybe have some agency there to be like, cancel, abort, like go back to base. Like this seems like there should be some, and maybe Shelton just needs to know the situation a little bit better and his personnel. Yeah. All right.
Well, let's keep going here, Dan. Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
Oof. I'll take the end of game 2 when the Twins blow this lead here. It changed the tide of the series. I thought if they hold on to that game and then you're going for the series win and in game 3, and then you think, okay, this is all right. It's okay to win 2 out of 3 and not 1 out of 3, but 0 out of 3, that's a problem. And I thought that started really there at the end of game 2.
Yes, it's sad, Dan, that we have options to talk about blown leads here for a Minnesota moment. But so I have to go game 3, top 9. Andrew Morris blowing that lead to prevent the sweep was very heartbreaking. I'm watching it, and my wife had a meeting, and so I'm like with the kids, and I tend to be pretty vocal when I'm watching the game, and I think sometimes my kids think I'm mad at them because I'm like yelling at the TV, right? And I'm like, come on, boy, and like sometimes I'll call my son boy, kind of as I'm teasing him, a little bit, and so then he like looks up, he's like, huh? Like, am I in trouble? It's like, no, you're not in trouble. Like, I'm mad. No, I'm mad at Andrew Morris. I'm mad at Andrew Morris.
Why are you mad at Andrew Morris, Dad? I think that's probably what he's thinking in his head. Like, this is just a person on a game.
Yes, I shouldn't be as mad as I was. I can say that for sure, Dan. But let's go ahead. Maurer's musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Maurer's musings.
All right, so I know that. So it looks like Royce Lewis is going to join the Twins on Tuesday. He's homered in both rehab games. Which is a wonderful sign for Mr. Confidence himself. But do you think that there's another move coming in the next week here that's going to adjust Jams Outmake, whomever you might decide who might be here? Do you want them to, and do you think they will?
I don't know. Part of me wants you to call up Culpepper and then put Brooks Lee at third and just see how things shake out. But since you have Royce coming back, that doesn't work as well. And you can't just replace Brooks at this point because I think you still need to give him quite a bit of a leash. I think we talked about like May 1st kind of being the decision point for Brooks Lee. However, bringing up one of the outfield studs at AAA who just seem to just keep hitting home runs, I don't think that would be a bad thing to give this team a jolt after a really heartbreaking loss against this Reds team that was certainly beatable in this series.
Well, you know who's batting really well down at AAA? Mr. AAA, Alan Roden, right? He's up to 61 at-bats down there, 964 OPS, which is a little bit behind Emmanuel Rodriguez, who has 57 at-bats, OPS of 969. I think he'd be the one I'd want to see. I just think James Outman is nearing the end of his tenure that I think we knew was going to end, and I think it's just a matter of picking a date and whether it's going to be before that date or after that date. I would say May 1st. I think in a couple weeks here, maybe even one more, we're going to see the end of the James Outman experience, and we're going to see Rodriguez or at least Alan Roden come back.
Yeah, Roden seems like the most likely candidate just because he has the major league experience and he had those options initially to be sent down, and since he was sort of the last one to be cut out of camp. But
I think that's cowardly, though. I think they got to give Rodriguez.
I'm not. Dan, I'm not defending the move here. I'm saying that I could totally understand the Twins' perspective that Roden is the guy to bring up. But I agree. The least exciting, the most vanilla move you could make in more ways than one, I suppose. Like bringing Roden up, but.
All right. Let's move to yours. There, what were you going to talk about?
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit earlier here, Dan. But here's my question. Is this the end of the good times? Like, is the fun that we had in this Minnesota Twins season over with? Like, it was fun. Everything just happened to bounce the Twins' way. Or was this just a blip and we're going to get back to our winning ways, Dan?
I think it's just a blip. Too much went well for the Twins. We already knew the bullpen was not good, right? And the bullpen hasn't been that good going before this series. It's just that it was exposed. I think there was still a lot of promising things that we saw out of this. The starting pitching, for one. When you have starting pitching who's going to give you quality starts here, out of even a guy like Bailey Ober, right? And which is weird to say that, but I just think he's not in the caliber of 3 of the other starters right now. I think we're okay here as fans. I think they're only 11-11. We'll see. But if there's another sweep here, then I'm going to start to get worried here. Or if they lose, 5 of the next 6, I'm not going to be so optimistic. But let's see. It's early. It's April.
Well, and the Mets, Dan, have lost 10 straight coming into this series, which last season I would have said, what better medicine for the Mets than to play the Twins to break this losing streak. But right now, it's really important, and it would be a big boost to this team to win 2 out of 3 in New York. Come back with some wins under your belt. That would be phenomenal. I think they go Mets and then they go Rays. But let's go ahead and grade this series where we have a large gap between us, Dan.
Series grades.
I'll explain.
Well, I'm going to give him an F.
Well, I know. Sorry.
F,
Yeah,
Dan.
that's right. You have to say yours first. F.
I always start, Dan.
I know.
Ever.
Sorry.
It's an F for sure. The lack of offense, the lack of high leverage bullpen arms, absolutely killing them. Honestly, though, this is what we thought every series would be. I thought this would be the same segment. I could just copy and paste between each of the series as we record them. But this series was rough because they were 6 for 35 with runners in scoring position. That's a 171 average, which is significantly down from their 300 plus average they'd had with runners in scoring position up to this point.
Well, and that was buoying them, right? And we know that's going to come down to it, I think at some point. So, okay. So initially I just knee-jerk put in an F, and then I was going to try to make the numbers work. But then I went through the numbers and I was like, this wasn't a terrible series for the Twins. There were just a couple bad spots, and it was mostly bullpen. So top of the lineup, 8 out of 10. Middle and bottom, each 7 out of 10. Starters, 9 out of 10. I thought the starters were great, but the bullpen, weren't good when they needed to be. Like if they could have been good at the end of game 2 and then blown game 1 more wide open, then I think this grade actually matches up. It's like if you rearrange the pieces of the game and how they were played, then I think you should have a series where the Twins win once. So I think from the quality of baseball, I gave them a 5 out of 10, but if you add all that up, that's 36 out of 50, and that's still a C-. That's a manageable score here. I thought they played better baseball than the results showed.
Okay, so this is sort of like when you take the ACT and like you have one category that goes really, really well for you, and it just
you can hang your hat
the rest
on that,
of those
right?
scores. Yeah.
That's all right. You don't have to beat them down.
I mean, it's a miracle I even got into college, Dan. And let me tell you something else about miracles. You could say that CBD is a miracle drug, and you wouldn't be wrong. The list of benefits using CBD is long. Use it to knock out pain, use it to reduce inflammation, and use it to sleep better. And when you choose Cascade CBX Sport, you get these benefits plus the peace of mind that their products are NSF certified for sport. CBD can help everyone from your aging grandmother managing her arthritis to a weekend warrior easing aches and pains, all the way to a college or pro athlete who doesn't want to risk their sponsorship or their scholarship and needs sports CBD products free of over 300 banned substances. Visit CascadeCBXsport.com and trust the Shield to stay on the field.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
Let's start with the Padres being sold to a guy who owns the Chelsea Football Club. And the Padres sold in for $3.9 billion.
What drama, what a game, what a finish.
That's what I want. I want English announcers to come over and call Padres games. I just think that especially like, could you give me a Spanish-speaking, English accented soccer call? You know how like, go, but like with an English accent on top of it? That would be fantastic.
Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I suppose, Dan, if you can find that one guy who fits that description, let's hope you can find
$3.9 billion. Do you think that bodes well for the Twins here? That was the application here I thought you'd go with here. You don't think so?
No, because the Twins would have sold. If they only wanted 1.7 and the Padres sold for 3.9. If you're a Twins ownership, you shouldn't be thinking, well, that means we should be able to get more money.
I know, but
you couldn't sell it the first time around.
I know, but like the Padres, this is what's so frustrating, is that the Padres are only more valuable because their owner before chose to invest more money in them to make them a better product, to make them more valuable. And the Twins have just decided, well, that's too much effort and risk. And it's like, no, this works. If you put your money in your baseball team, you're generally going to be better. Like there's some causation there. It's not just random.
You're kind of preaching to the choir.
Well,
here,
I know
Dan.
I am. Anyway. But then you just talked
Yes,
about the Mets
I
losing
understand.
10 in a row, and so you figure, I guess it's not perfect. You know, they have a lot of money, too.
Yes, I believe that a better baseball team would be worth more money. I think we all
All right. When you say it like that, it sounds
makes
very
sense.
simplistic and basic. Right? Like a bigger tree is worth more money than a smaller tree. Like, I get that.
You guys selling a lot of trees
Well,
up
I'm
there,
looking
Dan?
at
What
a
are you
tree on my
talking
window,
about?
and I'm looking at the bigger one. I'm thinking if I chop that down, it'd be worth more money in firewood than the smaller one.
I did not know you were into the lumber industry.
You
Dan.
have
We're
to be.
all
When you
learning.
have trees, all you see is lumber, David.
Do you sell lumber?
Well,
Dan? Now I'm
I
like wondering
don't,
if there's a whole part
actually.
of your life that I don't know about.
It's
the
my
way you're
third
talking
job.
about this. Well, this one's square footage and diameter wise. We should be able to get at least $3,000 out of that.
No,
tree.
I don't know. I would be worried to chop a tree down, David, that would just fall on me. I wouldn't be worried about the sound that it makes. Like I would be much more worried about it landing and thudding on me, and there go Dan and the podcast, I suppose.
Well, it's just me crying every show.
Well, you'd have
wish Dan
Hoges,
was
I
here.
guess. You'd be okay.
Well, yeah,
That
there'll be a
got
lot of
dark.
tears there.
We should keep going.
Yeah. Sorry. Otani is now third on the all-time list in Dodgers history, reaching base in 51 consecutive games. His 50th, Dan, came with 2 outs in the 9th inning to keep his on-base streak alive. So he's the leader is Duke Snider for the Dodgers with 58, and then Sean Green's in second with 53. I mean, I know that Hogue says Otani is the greatest baseball player on the face of the planet, and he very well may be, but I just refuse to say that, Dan, because I don't think that he's a very good person when it comes to this betting scandal stuff.
Okay,
Dan.
if he gets to 84 games, though, which would be Ted Williams' record, that's
a long way from now, Dan.
That's a month away from now, I suppose. A little bit more than that. But no, he's 5 short. Well, okay, an on-base streak, how does that compare to a hitting streak for you? And is it apples and oranges now in this day and age?
I think that a hitting streak is more impressive than an on-base
For
streak,
sure.
obviously. I think they're both pretty impressive, though. If you're getting on base, Dan, a lot of guys go 0 for and never touch first base. And so to have a guy who has an
Outmake
on-base
strikes me as a
Jam's
comparative here.
Outmake, never, Dan, is touching first base, let me tell you. But so, yeah, I would say they're a little bit different categories, both impressive in their own right, but hitting streaks are always going to take the cake.
And then we have a couple college notes here. So Minnesota's own St. Thomas, they're playing Northern Colorado, which is a program that I know pretty well, covering the Big Sky. St. Thomas loses 8-7 in a 21-inning game. Exciting on its own, but it happened with a 2-out, bases-loaded balk. I watched that video probably 5 times. I don't know what a balk is, David. What did he do that was so illegal here?
I think it was a slight shift when the guy on third danced a little bit. That's I think all it took. But my goodness, there is something to be said about reading the room here, Blue. Like, dude, a 21-inning game, this is how you want it to end. Are you kidding me?
I know. And they left the field. They wouldn't even talk to each other. They didn't talk to anybody else. So that's a huge bummer. And then Lehigh baseball set a Division I record, scoring 20 runs in the first inning against Coppin State. But that doesn't seem... Surely, college has vastly different quality of teams, right? That actually kind of surprises me that nobody has put up more than 20 in a college game.
20 in one inning, Dan, is insane.
That is a lot of runs. That's more...
And to play baseball at college, it's not just walk-ons there. Most of the programs have guys who are actual guys who can get outs, Dan.
That's true. Anyway, feel bad for...
Jam's Outmake.
Feel bad for Coppin State, They did lose the game, I assume?
Yeah, it was 36-9 or something.
Okay, they held
but
them off there.
It's the craziest box score ever, and it the way that Lehigh has the box scores is really kind of hard to follow, and you have to keep scrolling because the first inning is so long. You have to get to the bottom of it. All right, well, let's push here, Dan. Let's go ahead and make our Puckett's picks for this big momentum creating Mets series.
And we'll see you tomorrow night. Puckett's Picks.
So the listeners are going to take Buxton, not shocking at all, and then it goes to you, Dan.
I'm going to make the safe pick here, and I'm just going to go with Josh Bell, who has been consistent, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Hoges is going to take Jeffers, which I'm bummed about because I was going to take Jeffers. And it gets quite a bit harder after these three are off the board. Now, I believe, the rules state if I pick Royce Lewis and he doesn't return from the IL, I am still stuck with Royce Lewis, right?
Yeah.
It's only if a guy goes on the IL.
After we make our pick on the show.
After we
you
make
knew
our picks,
you have
right?
the cards. Like, you know the hand you're dealt.
Yes. Okay. So I am going to take Royce Lewis because I think there's a good chance that if he comes back, he's going to score high. And a 0 might win it at this point, honestly, even if he doesn't get called up. Who knows, Dan Thompson?
Well, it's good to be back. Thank you, Hoges, for filling in for me last week, and I think I'll go ahead and send us out. Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win and find our Min for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Min for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, with special guest appearances from Andrew Hoges Hoganson, 3 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Minnesota Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins!